Hello, it's Wednesday. I'm back for another live show. I feel like it's been a really long time since I spoke to you all, but I think I was here last week, so I'm not sure why that is. I think maybe because I was speaking to you last week on Tuesday, so it's an extra day. So I've missed you. Hope you've missed me too. So I'm back today, Wednesday, same time as ever, 8 o'clock. GMT, so UK time, and I'd love for you to join me. I'll be here every week as much as I can at the same time. Obviously last week was Valentine's Day. I bought these roses for myself, just saying. So I hope you had a lovely Valentine's Day last week, whoever you were with. I hope you've had a lovely week in general. And well, what's going on with you? There's a lot going on here. I'm quite tired. The last couple of nights I've been staying up very late to get these special air miles tickets on British Airways for a flight that's a year from now. Won't go into the boring details, but I'm absolutely exhausted from doing that, but I managed to get the ones I wanted, so happy with that. Business-wise, I went to an amazing workshop on Monday that I'll tell you about in a minute, because that's coming up soon on the blog, and I've got an interview with someone that I'm going to be sharing. We've kicked off with the first cohort in the group programme, One Step Outside the 9 to 5, that I've been talking about for the last few weeks and months. Really excited about that. The guys in the group have promised me that they're going to be working through all the materials, or starting to work through all the materials this weekend on the first module, the first month. So it's a 6-month programme. So really excited so far. So happy to have got this off the ground, and looking forward to running that again in the future with any tweaks needed and building on that. Thanks to having that up and running, and hopefully some other projects sort of settling in a little bit. Hello, please say hi when you join. I'd love to know who you are. Thanks to all of that, I'm hopefully going to be going back to my book, which is also around leaving the corporate job, leaving the corporate 9 to 5 stories from people who've done it and how you can too. So that's going to be 40 or probably even 50 stories now, career transition stories of people who've left the corporate 9 to 5 and set up some kind of alternative career path and lifestyle, reimagining success, as I like to call it. So I know some of you have been on that waiting list, and very sorry about that. There's been a bit of a delay, but I'd love to get back to that. Hey Adam, hello, I was just talking about you. Well, I didn't mention you by name, but Adam's one of the people in the group who's been kicking off, and he's been amazing so far, super interactive, which I think is so important, working hard, and I think he's going to see amazing results, and I think he already has. So hello Adam, thank you for joining. I was just talking about the book that's going to be sort of a good support system actually also for the group programme, and then the podcast, which is also something I've been talking about for a while. I've got my microphone set up here that I've been using to record other stuff. It's all ready. I just don't want to sort of put too many things onto my plate right now, so that's going to be coming soon. I was mentioning that I went to this workshop on Monday. It was around managing your well-being, and I think I said in the group the other week that I've been focusing very much on the business side of things, very much mindset and fears and confidence and so on, but nonetheless very much business. And if you've been part of my community for a while, you know that I like to talk about all the different areas in our life. So the 5 L's, and one part of that is work and career, but there are 4 other L's in there. So I wanted to really start broadening out again. I do have a few articles and interviews on the blog and on YouTube with a couple of people on relationships, on health and so on, but I'm going to be doing more of that. It's all very much interlinked, because if we have we can't have a thriving business unless we have that foundation of health, well-being and so on. And actually the workshop I went to with the lovely Tanya Diggory of Karma, which is a company she set up to help entrepreneurs and very much managing mental health and so on, which unfortunately is a growing issue. But she's very much integrating the health and well-being aspects into the business strategy, because that's what you need to do. You need to really anchor that in the foundation. Believe me, from my own experience, you can't say I'll set that up later on once I've got my first £1,000, first 6 figures, whatever your goal is. So that really needs to be anchored into that. So I'm going to have an interview with Tanya that I did a few weeks back on the blog next week, and we're talking a bit more about those kinds of aspects of sort of getting that routine in place and so on, which I think is so incredibly important. And then looking at some of the other L's as well, so not just looking at the business. But today I did want to talk about the business, and it's maybe a bit of a negative topic, but I wanted to cover some of the challenges, some of the really... the sort of hurdles, I suppose, common mistakes that we might make, in particular when we're setting up our first business. And often it's because we come from, being a full-time employee. It's a very different dynamic, whether it's sort of the business and marketing strategies or managing your own time or selling yourself. That sounds terrible, but you know what I mean, selling your products and services, building your personal brand and so on. So there are quite a few challenges there, and I think it's important to be aware of those up front, so that we can really anticipate them and address them, because many of us have made these mistakes already, so there's no reason for you to make them again. You can make your own if you want to. There's always things to learn, and that's fine, that's part of the journey, but there are some important things to try to avoid, at least for your own comfort and sanity. And I say this is when you're starting your business, but I think actually the 5 challenges that I'm talking about are very much applicable further down the line. And again, for me, I'll talk a bit about my own experience, but certainly a couple of them are things that I'm still very much working on. So that's what I wanted to talk about today. I'm linking to the blog post as ever if you're more of a reading person, and then hopefully I'll add a bit more colour to that in the video today. The first one I wanted to start with is around getting locked into analysis paralysis. And this is definitely one that I've been victim to in the past. I, like perhaps many of you, have grown up in a very rational, reasoning, kind of pros and cons, logical education system. That's the way the corporation worked. It was, we're going to do this for this and this reason. And it's always, weighing the information and analysing and so on. And I do love a good strategy. I love pen and paper, drawing things up. I've got an amazing whiteboard that I'm constantly rewriting stuff on. I love the thinking. I'm a very sort of visionary kind of person. I love the theory side. I love planning. I love dreaming. I love the kind of that kind of theoretical, I guess, side of it. Of course, I love implementing as well, but there's something very inspiring and motivational when you're just kind of dreaming of what's possible. You haven't come across all the hurdles and things. But there's a sort of negative side to that, because we can sit, for all the amount of time we can sit at our desks, and I can give you lots of exercises, and we do lots of analysis, and think about, what's going to be the best strategy, the best approach to clients, and the best branding, the best sales pitch and the best website, etc., etc. And that's not actually going to materialize unless we actually take action. So unfortunately, a lot of things can't be decided, and maybe that's a good thing, just sitting with your pen and paper at your desk. So the best solution there is to do something, and that's why I always talk about taking that one step, because it's very much about not having to take a big leap, but just some step. And every week, every Wednesday on the Facebook page, I say, what's the one step you're going to take you closer to your goals? It doesn't have to be a big one. It can be a big one if you want it to, but best just to take little steps. So it could be, emailing someone, giving someone a call, looking up a course, buying a book. It could be tidying your room, it could be anything that's actually taking you that bit closer. But something, taking action, ideally something, going out and actually talking to somebody, or, doing something external, which is the second point that I'll talk about in a minute. But doing something is the best way to get out of that paralysis. And, often people contact me and they say, is this right? Is that right? And I could tell you, and maybe I can't tell you. But either way, it doesn't really matter. It's not about looking for the right answer. It's the right answer for you, first of all, and secondly, again, the only way you will find it out is by going out there and talking to people and seeing what resonates and seeing what you enjoy. So I'd encourage you to try to break out of that paralysis, get off your bum, go and do something, take action, that one step, whatever it is. And I very nicely segued there, because I already started talking about going external, because the second challenge or mistake, I think, is actually being very internal. And again, it's something that I tend to do, because I love to sit and, work on my website, and I like to write, so I like to write copy and so on. But you can become very internally focused. And all that navel gazing, in terms of what's the best way to phrase this, and this is what my branding is going to look like, and my logo and so on. We spend money, we spend time on business cards, websites and so on. And actually, even if you have the most beautiful website, business card, logo, etc., nobody's going to see it unless you go out and talk to people, you do advertising, you create some content, you go to events and so on. So, to be honest, as important as all those things are, and of course course, I help people build businesses, brands, websites, and so on. So of course, I think they are important. And again, I love working on those myself. But there's no point in having that content unless somebody's coming to it. So often you'll hear people say, 20% is creating content and 80% is actually putting it out there, marketing it, and so on. So I'm struggling with that. I have to say I do prefer to create high quality content, but as you can see, I'm getting more comfortable with just coming on Facebook Live, babbling on a little bit to you. Done is better than perfect, as they say. So I think, just going out there, talking to people, asking questions, connecting. You actually don't need a website necessarily. You could have something basic, just almost like a CV, a basic kind of, hey, I'm Anna, photo, links to social media, this is what I do kind of thing, if you're in that position. But really, you could direct someone to your LinkedIn profile. You could get their details and get in touch with them. There's all sorts of ways. You can start a website on something like Medium or Tumblr, where you don't need to actually create a whole website. You can just almost create something more sort of blogging, but at least to have a professional platform there, and interact with people that way. So it's more about the conversations, as uncomfortable as that is to actually go out there and talk to people, but that is how you will gain traction. You'll get insights that you'll need to build the brand and the business, much more so than sitting at home and designing beautiful logos and business cards. For all the times I've done my business cards, I very, very rarely use them. There are some quite sort of traditional corporate events, perhaps. Often you're sharing it with sort of peers. It would be coaches asking me for the card and vice versa, and we're never going to buy each other's services. It's a bit of an odd one. But it is fun to have those cards. So as long as they're not too expensive, it's a nice thing to have. And maybe you can be creative in terms of how you use those. But just to say, try to focus externally, thinking of who you want to talk to, what are the questions you want to ask, what are you trying to find out, what are you trying to put out there and see what resonates, and so on. And most of all, just get out of the house and go and talk to people rather than like me every day sitting at my laptop here. So those are the first two, analysis paralysis and focusing internally rather than externally. And the third one's a really important one, and again, it's something that I, to be honest, struggle with. So I struggle with all of these. This is full disclosure here. Number 3 is taking only sporadic action. And the temptation is we get really excited at the beginning of a project. We have that motivation. We're intrinsically motivated. We're excited. There's this adrenaline. And again, whiteboard and pen and paper and draw stuff. And you can get a website up in a day and so on and so on. And then suddenly your sort of energy goes out the air, goes out the balloon, and then you're tired the next day. In my case, I have a migraine or something, and then, it fizzles out, and then suddenly you've forgotten about it and weeks have gone. So as much as you've created something amazing in that one day, that kind of one-off effort isn't really going to build a business. And building a brand, building a business, you're really in it for the long haul. It's going to take time. You need that exposure for people to know, like, and trust you, as they say. And, getting out there, and people often need to see you, 5 times, 10 times, 20 times to get a feel for who you are, if they're going to want to work with you, and so on. So, doing one Facebook Live every 6 months, or, doing it for a few weeks and then stopping because you're not really getting a lot of results. Tweeting a little bit and then stopping, writing a couple of articles now and again, then when you feel like it. These are all quite dangerous things to do because nothing is actually going to stick. So rather than trying to do a little bit of everything and then stopping too soon, get really clear on what you want to try. So let's say this month I'm going to try writing an article every Friday, and I'll put that out there. And to be honest, a month isn't long enough. So once you've got that, you want to keep that going. But then maybe the next month you might try something else. You might add on a Facebook Live or something like that. And some of these things are very easy to do. You can literally turn your phone on and do a Facebook Live, so that doesn't require too much. Something like a podcast obviously requires a bit more equipment, planning, structure and commitment and so on. So probably best to start out with some of these sort of lower hanging fruits that we say. But importantly, it's about taking small actions every day. So it's hard to know at the beginning what those actions are, and that's why you have to experiment a little bit, but you just have to stick with it long enough to know, is this working, is it not working, just because it's the wrong strategy, I'm doing the wrong messaging, wrong people, or is it just not working because I haven't done it long enough? And I've heard, actually my coach, I remember last year, was saying she did 17 webinars or something before she got it to work. And I thought, oh, I'd done one. And I thought, well, that's okay, I suppose. And then I thought, then of course that's sort of the strategy done and dusted. But that's sort of not really the right approach. So, you know, even the biggest, best superstars out there have tried and tried, and, you know, you learn each time, you get better and so on. I can guarantee you, if we go back to the blog post I was writing a few years ago, in fact, I'd probably be embarrassed if I read those. The good thing about the internet is there's so much out there now that it all gets lost, doesn't it? But, and, you know, worst case, you can delete something. But most importantly, you know, get up every day, send 3 emails, write 1 post a week, you know, record something, draw, whatever it is you're trying to do, you know, just do it consistently and do it for a long time, because you're not going to see results otherwise. So don't give up. I see so many people give up right when it's really tough, and that's usually the moment when it's about to break through for you. You know, a friend in the group actually was saying how she had the most awful day the other day, but the reason is that the business is actually going really well. So huge fast growth has caused this sort of explosion of lots of sort of short-term one-off mistakes, but you learn from that, and then now, you know, taking on a bigger team, addressing those issues, and shooting up into superstar success. So those are the breakthroughs that will come if you can be persistent and resilient and just keep going. And I think, to be honest, that's the top reason why businesses fail, is that the entrepreneur simply gives up. So don't do that. Be consistent rather than sporadic. There's also have you heard of the Seinfeld effect, I think it's called? He was asked once, you know, how can you write this stuff every day? And he said, well, I don't just wait for motivation. It's not like, you know, I don't know, a truck driver would wake up in the morning and say, oh, do I feel motivated to drive? Oh, no, I don't think I do. I think I've got driving block, as a writer would, right? We say we've got writer's block, and suddenly that's okay for not writing. In particular in creative jobs, we say, oh, well, yeah, I don't feel like it, or I didn't have sort of the vibe. And he had the system that he wrote every single day. And he started probably with a whiteboard like mine, and with a cross on every single date. So, you know, today I write, tomorrow I write, etc., etc. And you just didn't want to break the chain. That can be, you know, there's all sorts of apps now that let you do that for exercise and all sorts of routines. But, you know, not wanting to break that chain, you've been now writing for 79 days, you know, you damn well want to continue, because it's going to be really annoying to break that chain and start again. So there are some techniques and things, but, you know, just consistency, take the emotion out of the equation, make it like a ritual, like brushing your teeth. No negotiation with yourself, just take these actions regularly every day and you're bound to see results. So the next one, and it's another big one, and I think it'll need to have a proper training on it around pricing and so on, but it's around undervaluing yourself and your services. And, you know, as I said at the beginning, I think this is really natural when you're coming from a full-time employee status working in a company, because we're given a salary, we're told, you know, this is how much, even pocket money when we're younger, you know, this is how much you're worth. This is the ceiling sort of thing. So you can always negotiate it if you're brave enough to do that. But there is a certain range in which your salary will be, and you certainly don't have to sort of on a regular basis go out there and tell your manager, okay, give me this much today, and then next week, you know, give me this much today. It's maybe, you know, once a year maximum you're going to be negotiating that salary. Putting yourself out there is different for those 2 reasons then. One is that you actually have to be asking every project you're going to be, whether it's on your website or usually in a call, in a face-to-face meeting, in a proposal, you need to be confidently stating your fees. You need to be increasing those fees regularly, and you need to make sure, you know, that you're getting what you need, what you want, and you're being competitive. So that's a key challenge in terms of we've never really had to do that regularly. And the other part of it, of course, is that it's actually us. So it's our work. So it's a piece of art that I've created. It's a book that I've written. It's a course I've built. You know, who's to say what value that has? And in a way, hopefully, you know, you put it out there and the market will decide. That's capitalism for you. Either people will want to pay or not. But, you know, there's always people who will say it's too much. There's always people probably who will say, you know what, that's too little, so she's probably not good enough for me. And then hopefully you'll find that sweet spot of people who love you, who've been watching you, who resonate with you and see the value in what you're creating. But, you know, there's all sorts of things around money mindset. I think a lot of this is tied up in beliefs and, you know, rich people are mean and selfish and I want to do good in the world, so I shouldn't be earning too much money, all these things, and they can be quite damaging. Worst case, you earn too much money, give it all to charity. So don't worry, there's always a good solution. If you think it's terrible to earn lots of money, you don't have to be rich and comfortable if you don't want to be. Worst case, you know, you can take that money and give it to a good cause. So please don't worry about earning too much. And you know, what's the worst thing that can happen? Someone will say no, it won't sell. You have to change your proposition. You have to maybe reduce your price if you really have gone crazy, because there is such a thing as doing that. Or, you know, or rethink your strategy. But really remembering that you have a worth, you have a lot of skills and experience and expertise, even if you're moving into a different area. And I think that's another challenge as well. You may feel that you're turning your back on all that expertise and so on from your past life and career. You may feel like you're starting from scratch. You're not. And I hear people saying, especially after, you know, a career break, maybe to take care of family, oh, I'm fine with just working for free, you know, I'll just ask if I can be an intern or something. No, you're, you know, 35 years old, you're 50 years old, you've got 10, 20 years of experience, you're an amazing, whatever you are, social media manager, project manager, you know, individual in whatever way. Know your value, try to get a sense of that, practice in the mirror if you need to, put your shoulders back, you know, sing a song, whatever it takes. There's an element of confidence there, but don't sell yourself short. Don't go in there saying, oh, I don't have to be paid, or you don't have to pay me so much, or anything like that. You know, just that's one of the biggest things, I think. And, you know, I talk about this in terms of learning to sell yourself again and build your brand and put yourself out there. There's a good reason why you need to learn to do that, because the business is not going to work otherwise. If no money is coming in, you're not going to be able to continue building that business. It's not going to work for you, and it's not going to work for all those people that you want to help. And then secondly, if people aren't buying from you, or if people are only, you know, paying a little bit, they're probably not getting the results from you. The reality is, you know, when I've invested a lot of money in my coach now for a year, I'm damn well gonna, you know, work through every single training in her system. I'm gonna turn up to all our calls. I'm gonna hustle in between. I'm gonna do all the work that we agree that I'm gonna do, and I'm gonna go above and beyond. Even, you know, it's all coming from me really, rather than from her even. But the sheer fact that I've paid that money is gonna motivate me. So there's a lot of research now as well around, you know, if you've paid you know, £10 for something, or if you go to a free training, you're actually going to undervalue that as well. So think of that. You're actually sort of doing your clients a disservice by not charging them enough. Something to think about. And then the fifth one, and again, I've been a victim to this too in the past and probably still am, it's going it alone. So being an entrepreneur, freelancer, business owner, whatever it is you are, can be very lonely. If you're sort of self-motivated and independent like I am, you can, you know, do very well actually working for yourself. But still, there are elements of support needed. And there's a few different dimensions to that. And I think, you know, again, the mental health issue that I mentioned at the beginning, that's a real issue, because people are often leaving corporate jobs because they're burnt out, their values are misaligned with the companies, they've had an awful boss, they've had terrible relationships in the office or at home, you know, they've been made redundant, whatever it is, but there's something that's pushed them to go out and create their own business. And yet then we go out and we create those same sort of shackles for ourselves. We lock ourselves up in a room, we work late into the evening, we push ourselves so that our health suffers and so on. And that's not really what we left our jobs for, right? So it's important to, again, give us that time, take a step back, think about what we're actually doing, and get the support system in place. And as I was saying, there's a few different elements to that support system. One is simply people who believe in you, who support you, who are just going to cheer you on. They're not necessarily going to try to solve your problems if you don't know what to do on your website or pricing strategy or anything. They're just going to be there for you. They're not going to constantly ask you, oh, but why aren't you getting a real job? Shouldn't you be saving you for pension? Or, you know, what on earth are you doing with your life? They're not going to be attacking you or judging you. You don't need to defend yourself. It's just people who are cheerleaders, like-minded people who are super enthusiastic and supportive. And I heard actually on a podcast today that an online support group is as effective as offline, which is amazing. Not to say that you shouldn't go out there and meet people, but certainly, you know, hopefully this Facebook group, the group that we have now for our little group program, other groups that you can find. When I first left, I was part of a group of adventurers that I've had some amazing experiences with, and they're just the kind of people who just light up, and when you see them, you know, again, I sort of shoulders back, I smile and I feel amazing. So those are the people you want to be with, who encourage you, and you leave those conversations feeling like, yes, I can do this, I can do anything, rather than, you know, being pulled back. So one side of it is just that kind of cheerleader element, the emotional support, the believing in you. One piece is more sort of, I guess that's the carrot maybe, and there's the stick as well. So there's a bit of accountability. And ideally, we have that accountability from ourselves, and that comes from having a really clear vision, knowing what we want, from having that strategy and plan and so on. But the reality is, again, having my coach, having, you know, agreed with her to do something, I know I have that call on that day. I want to be able to, I'm that good girl still, so I want to be able to tell her that I've done my homework. You know, I have that person checking in to ask me. I've got a friend as well who, you know, asked me, did you sign up to this? Did you get that help you needed? And that's fantastic. So, you know, even publicly announcing, you know, I'm going to put that book out there, I'm going to do the podcast, that's an element of accountability as well. So tell somebody, partner up with somebody, find a friend, find somebody, you know, who you can sort of help each other on with just that kind of checking in, you know, agree, because you don't want to annoy people. I did once have, she's not in this group, so I'll tell you the story. I had a friend who asked me to hide all her sweets and chocolates when we were living together. So I hid them, and she said, under no circumstances unless you give me the sweets and chocolate. I was like, okay, I won't. And of course, very soon thereafter, she asked me where they were, and I refused to give them to her. I very soon crumbled, so maybe I was a bad accountability partner, but she got so angry with me that I just thought, okay, that wasn't a very effective relationship. So that's not going to work. So you need someone who you're going to respect, who's going to be apparently more intimidating than I am, and who's going to really put that fear in you to make sure that, you know, you're going to hold yourself accountable there, because of that kind of dark cloud that's hanging over you if you don't do it. But, you know, I say that a bit jokingly. It's not supposed to be a, you know, another kind of evil thing that you have to do or anything like that stresses you out. But certainly that element of accountability, even putting in your calendar, blocking that time, giving yourself a deadline is really helpful. And then the final type of role, so that's sort of the emotional support cheerleader, there's the accountability piece, and the other one is really sort of expertise, advice, guidance, coaching, mentoring, whatever you want to call it, and it all depends on where you are in your journey. But, you know, of course, I believe in the power of having a coach. Having some kind of group program can be great for that accountability, for the group support, for the guidance that you're getting, some kind of roadmap, someone who's been there before, who's a few steps ahead of you. There might be particular skills areas, again, you know, trying to, for example, for me, you know, I realised that sales was something that I hadn't really done. I came from a marketing background, and we don't have to sell ourselves, our businesses and so on when we're in a big corporation. So that's been an area I've been really trying to upskill in. Coaching, of course, from the beginning was an area that I had to train in, or chose to train in. There might be particular areas, you know, maybe you have no idea how to use Facebook. Hopefully you do, since you're all here, although it's different to use it as a business, of course. You don't know how to come up with your brand. You need some kind of qualification for a particular, you know, industry or whatever it is that you're going into. But, you know, recognising those areas and getting the help you need. And it can be, you know, there are all sorts of levels. You can start by consuming free content, watching videos, reading stuff, going to free events. There's a lot out there. What I would say is beware of information overload. So it does help if you find, you know, one person who you can follow. I've recently unsubscribed from pretty much all my emails because you just get too many things, too many messages. And if someone's telling you, let's say in marketing, if someone's telling you to do LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook Live, you know, podcast, it's just completely stressful and overwhelming. So if you can, you know, find somebody who has an amazing podcast, let's say, and then follow them and see how they do their podcast, and then you can build your podcast. If you want to, you know, launch a group program, then you can follow someone who has a successful group program. Find someone who's a few steps ahead of you in a specific area, and then you can get a lot of sort of free stuff just from shadowing them, and then maybe sign up to one of their sort of lower level products. I bought a few of these like little DIY packages from people in the past just to see sort of what they're about and so on. And, you know, above all, ask for help. It is not a sign of weakness to ask for help. You know, the top execs around the world, sports people, everybody has a coach or a teacher or a trainer or whatever it is. It's not something that's a negative thing. And hopefully in our society now that is sort of changing, I suppose. It's not a problem to even have a therapist has been sort of kind of a not criticised, but, you know, negative thing in the past, and that attitude is thankfully changing. So whether it's, you know, real anxiety and mental health, certainly that's incredibly important to address, or if it's that you want help supporting you in your business goals and your dreams, whatever it is, there are people out there who can help you. So don't do it by yourself. So those are the 5 challenges that I wanted to talk through. So first of all, locking yourself up in your room and getting analysis paralysis, going with the rational information, pros and cons, must find the right answer, rather than simply trusting your intuition, going out there, taking action, take that one step. The second one being focusing internally instead of externally. So don't get distracted by colours and logos and business cards and websites and so on early on. Put yourself out there and then that stuff can kind of come. If you've heard of the lean startup, of the lean marketing idea, that's very much about putting out a minimum viable product, it's called. So something that kind of works. Go out there and tell someone at the next party you go to, hey, I do this for this person, and see what they say. So there's no need to have a whole complex website and so on up when you're starting out. Next one, taking sporadic action. So identify the 3 things, probably 3 things maximum, or even 1 thing per day that you're going to do every day, like Seinfeld with that cross in the box. Take consistent action and don't break that chain. And then undervaluing your services, really thinking about your worth, what that means in terms of serving the people you work with, what it means in terms of the lifestyle and the goals that you have for yourself personally, and then practice in the mirror with a friend, write it, say it, try some different things and just see what happens. There's no right answer. To be honest, even comparing your prices to other people, nobody else knows what they're doing either. So the fact that another coach or copywriter charges this much doesn't mean that that's the right amount. It doesn't mean you should undercut them. It doesn't mean you should match them or go over them. Most people don't know what they're doing. And it also, you don't know if they're actually getting clients or not. So don't look too much. As much as it's good to have an idea of your competitors, don't think that they know what they're doing necessarily. So undervaluing your services, and then finally going it alone. Whether it's free stuff at the beginning when you don't think you have money to invest in something, but as soon as possible, I really would encourage you, start with some little things here and there, and then as you sort of build your confidence, you find someone who you really trust, you find someone who's really got the specific expertise that you need. I'd really recommend that you can, as soon as possible, invest in that, and you will see that, investment back very, very soon, I'm sure. So I hope that was of value to you today, talking about some of the challenges, pitfalls, mistakes that I've admitted to that I've been suffering from as well, that I'm certainly continuing to work on. As I said, we'll be back next week. I'm actually hoping, if the weather's okay, it's going to be very cold but it's not raining, I'm going to be doing a wild camp out next week. It's going to be about 2 degrees here in England, so wish me luck with that. So I will actually be doing the Facebook Live from there. I'm hoping there's going to be signal, but it's quite a nice timing for that, because I am, as I said, going to be talking about well-being next week, and broadening out from that perspective of just thinking about the business and thinking about being out in nature with friends, and enjoying all those other aspects of your life too. So I hope you found that interesting. Thank you so much for joining. As ever, do comment, ask questions. If there are particular challenges, either related to what I've taught today, or any other challenges or things you're worried about. If you're in that analysis paralysis, or you're stuck a little bit, then get in touch. I'll put the link as ever to my free consultation call as well, if you want to grab a conversation with me, just a half-hour chat. And otherwise, have a great week. Take action, take those little steps every day, and above all, enjoy yourself and take care of yourself as well. Thanks so much for joining, and hopefully see you soon. Bye for now.